This 4-year-old homeless girl sees a millionaire being forced to give his baby to a snake, but she saw everything and does something that shocked everyone. Watch until the end. Comment what you thought of this story, giving it a rating from 0 to 10. I really want to know if you like my story, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The July sun beat down on the uneven stones of the old railway station in Havenwood when Lily felt her stomach clench once more. For 3 days, she hadn't managed more than a few coins an elderly lady had given her out of pity. The 4-year-old girl, with tangled brown hair and clothes that had once been white, settled herself against the peeling wall of the abandoned building, watching the sparse afternoon movement. Her small hands carefully held the only memento left from her grandma Hope, a faded cloth pouch where she kept a few dried seeds, and a smooth stone the old woman always said had special powers. Lily didn't quite understand what that meant, but she felt less alone when she touched the sun-warmed stone. Hunger made her tremble, but she had learned in recent weeks that crying didn't bring food. Ever since she woke up one cold morning and found her grandmother motionless on the makeshift bed they shared in an abandoned shack on the outskirts of town, Lily discovered the world was a very different place than she had imagined. People passed by her as if she were invisible, and when they did notice her, they usually pulled their own children away and quickened their pace. The sound of an engine pulled her from her thoughts. A sleek, black car was slowly making its way up the dirt road leading to the historic town center. Lily had never seen such a beautiful vehicle near the station. Instinctively, she stood up and began to follow it at a safe distance, her bare feet treading carefully between the loose stones of the path. Inside the car, 42-year-old Arthur Blackwood held the steering wheel tightly while casting worried glances at the back seat, where his son Leo, just 2 months old, slept restlessly in his car seat. The mining entrepreneur, owner of the prosperous Blackwood Gems, was driving toward Cutter's Gap, where Dr. Samuel Hughes, the only pediatrician specializing in premature infants in the region, had scheduled an urgent appointment. Leo had been born with some respiratory complications, and in the last 48 hours, he had shown symptoms that sent Arthur into a panic. Since losing his wife Eleanor in childbirth 2 months ago, every day was a battle against the fear of losing his son as well. His dark hair, once impeccably styled, now showed signs of neglect, and his expensive clothes couldn't hide the exhaustion he carried in his dark eyes. The rural road wound through hills covered in the typical vegetation of the Appalachian Mountains, and Arthur slowed down as he spotted a sharp curve ahead. It was then that he noticed another car parked strangely on the shoulder, partially blocking the road. A tall, thin man, about 50, was walking toward his vehicle, gesturing for him to stop. Arthur immediately recognized Frank Miller, a former employee of his company who'd been fired 6 months ago after serious irregularities were discovered in the quality reports of the extracted materials. The man looked different, thinner, with an unkempt beard and worn-out clothes that contrasted with the clean uniforms he used to wear when he worked at the mine. Going against every instinct that screamed to accelerate and flee, Arthur stopped the car. Frank approached quickly, and when he reached the driver's window, Arthur could see that his red eyes were not just from fatigue, but from something more dangerous. The ex-employee was holding something that made the entrepreneur's heart race, a crude, clearly homemade gun, but one that looked functional enough to cause harm. "Get out of the car, Arthur," Frank said in a hoarse voice, trembling visibly. "You destroyed my life, and now you're going to understand what it's like to lose everything you love." Arthur glanced back, where Leo continued to sleep, oblivious to the danger. His hands shook on the steering wheel as he quickly calculated his options. The road was completely deserted, and his cell phone had no signal in this mountainous region. "Frank, let's talk calmly," Arthur said, trying to keep his voice steady. "If it's money you want, we can work something out." "It's not just money," Frank shouted, pointing the gun directly at the entrepreneur. "It's justice. You took my dignity, my job, my family. My wife left me. My kids want nothing to do with me. Now you're going to feel what I felt." Behind a small rise of earth and rocks a few yards from the road, Lily watched the whole scene with wide eyes. The girl had followed the nice car out of curiosity, hoping for a chance to ask for help or food. But now she was witnessing something her small heart instinctively knew was wrong. Frank forced Arthur out of the vehicle, keeping the gun on him as he walked toward the back of the car. "Get the baby out," he ordered, his voice thick with rage. "I want you to watch your son get eaten by the timber rattlesnake I caught yesterday." Arthur's blood ran cold when he saw Frank open the trunk of his own car, revealing a large wooden box with ventilation holes. The sound coming from inside made it clear that something alive and dangerous was in there. "You're insane," Arthur whispered, instinctively positioning himself between Frank and the car where Leo slept. "An innocent child has nothing to do with our problems." "Innocent like I was when you invented those accusations to fire me?" Frank yelled, growing more agitated. "Innocent like my family was when they lost our house because I was unemployed." It was at that moment that Lily, hidden behind the rocky embankment, made a decision that would forever change the course of several lives. Her small fingers clenched into fists of dry earth and loose pebbles, and without a second thought, she leaped from her hiding place. "Leave him alone!" the girl shouted with all the force her small lungs could muster, throwing the dirt directly into Frank's eyes. The dirt and pebbles hit Frank's face with unexpected precision. The man staggered backward, screaming and rubbing his eyes desperately, the homemade gun slipping from his hands and falling to the rocky ground. Arthur wasted no time. With the agility that desperation provides, he dove for the gun, kicking it away from Frank's reach, while the ex-employee stumbled blindly, still trying to clear the dirt from his eyes. Lily stood still for a few seconds, her breath ragged, her small hands still dirty with earth, observing the result of her impulsive action. She had never confronted an adult before, but something inside her couldn't stand by and watch that man hurt the owner of the nice car and threaten the baby who was now crying in the back seat. "Who are you?" Arthur asked, looking at the girl while keeping Frank under control, using his momentary advantage to pin him against the car. "Where did you come from?" Lily took a few hesitant steps toward the two men. Now that the adrenaline was starting to fade, she felt her legs tremble. I saw him being mean," she said in a small voice, pointing at Frank. "Grandma Hope always said you can't let big people hurt little kids." Frank had managed to clear some of the dirt from his eyes and now looked at Lily with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "A dirty brat blinded me," he muttered, still rubbing his face. "A street kid defeated me." "Shut up," Arthur said firmly, keeping Frank pressed against the vehicle. His eyes turned back to Lily, noticing for the first time the child's deplorable state. The torn clothes, the matted hair, the bare feet cut by the stones on the ground. "Where are your parents, little girl?" "I don't have any," Lily answered simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Grandma Hope took care of me, but she went away a few days ago and hasn't come back." Leo's crying intensified in the back seat, and Arthur felt torn between keeping Frank under control and calming his son. "Listen," he said to Lily, "I need you to grab my cell phone from the front seat and try to call someone, anyone who appears in the contact list." Lily nodded and ran to the car. Her small hands could barely hold the device, but she pressed a few buttons randomly. To Arthur's relief, the cell signal had returned, and in a few moments, a call connected. "Hello?" a woman's voice said on the other end. "There's a bad man here who wants to hurt the baby," Lily said quickly, before Arthur could instruct her on what to say. "We're on the road to Cutter's Gap, near some big rocks." Arthur recognized the voice of Martha, his housekeeper, a 55-year-old woman who had cared for his home for over a decade. "Martha, it's Arthur," he yelled. "Call the police and come get us. I'm in trouble on the road." Meanwhile, Frank had partially recovered and was trying to break free from Arthur's hold. "You don't understand," he said in a desperate voice. "I lost everything because of you. My life ended when you fired me. I have nothing left to lose." "You had a drinking problem and were falsifying safety reports," Arthur retorted, maintaining pressure. "I didn't make anything up. You endangered the lives of dozens of employees with those fake reports on the stability of the mines." "They were just a few adjusted numbers," Frank protested. "Nobody got hurt." "Because we found out in time," Arthur exploded. "If that mine shaft had collapsed, we would have had deaths on our hands." Lily watched the argument with wide eyes, trying to understand the situation. The baby in the car continued to cry, and something inside her prompted her to approach the vehicle. Carefully, she climbed into the back seat and began to make little noises with her mouth, soft sounds her grandmother used to make to calm her when she was smaller. To everyone's surprise, Leo gradually stopped crying. Lily continued making the soft noises, gently waving her little hands near the baby, not touching him, but offering a reassuring presence. "How did she do that?" Arthur asked, momentarily distracted by the scene. Leo rarely calmed down with strangers and had cried for weeks on end, since birth. "Grandma Hope taught me," Lily explained. "She said babies understand when you talk with your heart, not just your mouth." 20 minutes later, the sound of approaching cars echoed down the road. Martha arrived first in her old but reliable pickup truck, followed by a local police car. The housekeeper, a sturdy woman with grey hair always tied in a tight bun, got out of the vehicle with a worried expression. "Mr. Blackwood, what happened here?" she asked, surveying the scene with experienced eyes. Her gaze lingered on Lily, who was still in the back seat of the car, keeping Leo calm. "Frank tried to rob me," Arthur explained quickly as the officers took control of the situation. "He wanted to use a snake to hurt Leo. This little girl saved me." Martha approached the car and observed Lily more closely. There was something about the child that bothered her, a disturbing familiarity she couldn't place. "What's your full name, little girl?" "Lily," the child replied. "Grandma Hope always just called me Lily. She said long names were for important people, and I was just an ordinary girl." "Hope?" Martha repeated, frowning. "Hope who?" "Hope Carter," Lily said. "She was a midwife here in Havenwood. She knew all the families and helped the babies be born." Martha's face paled slightly. She knew that name well. Hope Carter had been one of the most respected midwives in the region, and years ago had assisted in the birth of several children from the most important families in town, including Mr. Blackwood. Martha said carefully, "I think we need to take this child with us. She can't be left alone on the street." Arthur, still processing the traumatic events of the afternoon, looked at Lily. The girl had saved his life and his son's, demonstrating a courage many adults wouldn't have. "Do you have anywhere to go?" he asked her. Lily shook her head. "Grandma Hope always said that if anything happened to her, I should look for people with good hearts. I think you have good hearts." As the police took Frank away, who continued to mumble about injustice and revenge, Arthur made a decision that would change his life. "Martha, prepare the guest room. Lily will stay with us until we find a proper solution for her situation." Martha nodded, but her eyes remained fixed on the girl. There was something about Lily that stirred old memories, fragments of conversations she had overheard years ago, especially when she noticed a small detail that had gone unnoticed. When Lily stretched her arm to pick up something that had fallen on the floor, Martha glimpsed a scar on the child's right shoulder, partially covered by her torn clothing. A crescent-shaped scar, identical to one she remembered seeing on someone else years ago. Someone very important in Arthur's life, someone who had also been cared for by the midwife, Hope Carter. Martha kept her suspicions to herself as she helped Lily into the car, but her mind was already working, trying to fit together pieces of a puzzle she was afraid to solve. Blackwood Manor stretched across acres of red earth on the outskirts of Havenwood, with the main house built in the classic colonial revival style typical of the region. When Arthur's car passed through the wrought iron gate, Lily pressed her little face against the window, marveling at the manicured gardens and fruit trees that surrounded the property. "It's so big," she whispered, still clutching the cloth pouch with her grandmother's belongings. "Grandma Hope always talked about big houses, but I'd never seen one for real." Martha watched the girl in the rearview mirror, noticing how her eyes scanned every detail of the landscape. There was something unsettling in the way Lily seemed to recognize certain elements of the property, as if she had been there before, though that was impossible. When they reached the main veranda, Lily got out of the car carefully, her bare feet touching the flagstone floor with reverence. The two-story house, painted white with colonial blue details, stood before her like a palace from one of the stories her grandmother used to tell. "Come on, little." Martha said, carrying Leo in her arms. "Let's get you a bath and find some proper clothes." Lily followed the housekeeper through the wide corridors of the house, her large eyes absorbing every detail: the dark wood furniture, the paintings on the walls, the scent of lavender that permeated the air. As they passed the main living room, she stopped abruptly. "This table used to be over there," she said, pointing to a specific corner of the room. "And it had a vase with yellow flowers on it." Martha froze mid-corridor. The table had indeed been in that corner, until a few months ago, when it was moved after Eleanor's passing, and Eleanor had always kept yellow flowers in that specific vase, sunflowers she picked herself from the garden. "How do you know that?" Martha asked in a cautious voice. Lily seemed confused by her own observation. "I don't know. Sometimes I dream about places, and then they seem familiar when I see them for real." "What kind of dreams?" Martha insisted, kneeling down to the girl's level. "Dreams about a lady with long dark hair singing lullabies. She's always in a white house with lots of flowers, and there's a baby who cries a lot, but she can make him stop crying by singing." Martha's heart raced. The description exactly matched Eleanor in the last months of her life, when she spent hours trying to soothe Leo with songs she had learned in her childhood. Arthur appeared in the room at that moment, having left the car in the garage. "How are you settling in, Lily?" he asked, observing the girl with renewed attention. "Your house is very pretty, sir," Lily replied politely. "It looks like the places Grandma Hope described when she told stories about the important families of Havenwood." "Hope told stories about our family?" Arthur asked, a strange note in his voice. "She told stories about many families," Lily explained. "She said she knew all of Havenwood's secrets because she helped almost all the babies in town be born. She knew who liked whom, who fought with whom, who had problems, and who was happy." Martha and Arthur exchanged a significant look. Hope Carter had indeed been a central figure in the community, and her position as a midwife gave her access to intimate information about the most influential families in the region. "What other stories did she tell?" Martha asked, trying to keep her tone casual. "One of my favorites was about two children who were born on the same day, but one of them had to go away to a safe place," Lily said, fiddling distractedly with the string of her pouch. "Grandma said one day they would meet again because the heart knows its own." Arthur felt a shiver run down his spine. "Did Hope tell you this recently?" "No. She always told that story, as long as I can remember. Sometimes I asked if it was about me, but she would just smile and say that all children have a special story." Martha stood up quickly. "Mr. Blackwood, I need to prepare the girls' bath. With your permission." "Of course, Martha. Use the bathroom in the blue room. That one has the smaller tub." As Martha led Lily upstairs, Arthur remained in the living room, disturbed by the girl's revelations. There was something in Hope's stories that echoed painful memories of conversations with Eleanor in the final days of her pregnancy. In the bathroom, as Martha prepared the warm water, Lily began to undress without embarrassment. It was then that the housekeeper clearly saw the scar on the child's right shoulder. The crescent shape was unmistakable, and the memories Martha had tried to suppress came flooding back. Years ago, when Eleanor was pregnant, she had shown Martha an identical scar on her own shoulder, explaining that she was born with it. "The doctor said it's a rare birthmark," Eleanor had commented at the time. "Hope, the midwife who helped deliver me, always said that children with this mark had special destinies." "Little one," Martha said with a trembling voice, "how did you get this scar?" "Grandma Hope said I was born with it," Lily answered naturally, stepping into the tub. "She said it was a moon mark, and it meant I was protected by the mother in the sky." Martha had to lean on the sink to keep from falling. The pieces of an impossible puzzle were beginning to fit together in her mind, forming a picture she didn't want to accept. "Lily, do you know when you were born?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Grandma always said I was born on the day the rains came early, 4 years ago. She remembered because it was a very difficult birth, with a lot of noise and rushing around." Martha closed her eyes. 4 years ago, at the beginning of the rainy season, Eleanor had given birth to Leo. It had indeed been a complicated birth, with complications that resulted in Eleanor's premature passing. But there was another detail she had forgotten, a whispered conversation between doctors she had overheard by chance. "Martha," Arthur's voice echoed from the hallway. "I need to talk to you when you're done in there." "I'll be right there, sir," she replied, helping Lily wash herself. As she shampooed the girl's tangled hair, Martha noticed another disturbing detail. Lily began to hum a soft melody, a lullaby Martha recognized immediately. It was the same song Eleanor used to sing to Leo, a traditional Appalachian folk tune that very few people knew. "Where did you learn that song?" Martha asked in a hoarse voice. "Grandma Hope sang it to me when I had nightmares," Lily explained. "She said she learned it from a very pretty lady she helped deliver, and that this lady also loved this song very much." When Martha finished dressing Lily in borrowed clothes that had belonged to a niece, she went downstairs with trembling legs. Arthur was waiting for her in the library, nervously flipping through some documents. "Martha, I need to tell you something about Eleanor," he said without preamble. "In the last days before she passed, she said strange things about having made difficult choices. She mentioned Hope constantly, as if she wanted to tell me something important, but couldn't." "Mr. Blackwood," Martha said carefully, "I think we have a very complicated situation on our hands." "What do you mean?" "This girl. There's something about her that deeply disturbs me. The stories she tells, the scar she has, the way she calmed Leo in the car, the song she hums." "Speak plainly, Martha." The housekeeper took a deep breath. "I don't think Lily is a stranger to this family. I think she may have a much deeper connection to us than we imagine." At that moment, the sound of small footsteps echoed in the hallway. Lily appeared at the library door, clean and properly dressed, but something in her face had changed. She was holding a small object she had found in the room where she had changed. "Sir," she said in a small voice, "why do you have a doll exactly like the one Grandma Hope gave me when I was little?" Arthur looked at the object in Lily's hands and felt the floor disappear from under his feet. It was a handmade rag doll, made with colorful scraps and delicate embroidery, identical to the one he had seen Eleanor sewing during the last months of her pregnancy, whispering that it would be for the protection of her special girl. The silence that settled in the library was broken only by the ticking of the colonial wall clock. Arthur remained motionless, staring at the doll in Lily's small hands, as his mind tried to process the implications of what he was seeing. Martha sat down heavily in a leather armchair, her pale face reflecting the same shock that consumed her employer. Eleanor made two identical dolls, Arthur murmured, more to himself than to the other two. I remember her working on them for weeks, but I never understood why. When I asked, she just smiled and said that a mother always knows when she needs to prepare to protect her children. Lily caressed the doll with delicate fingers as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. Grandma Hope gave me this doll when I was very little. She said a very pretty lady had made it especially for me, and that I should keep it forever because it brought protection and love. Martha sat heavily in a leather armchair. Mr. Blackwood, I think we need to talk to Dr. Hughes. He was the one who attended Mrs. Eleanor's delivery, and if there's something we don't know about that day... Dr. Hughes retired 2 years ago, Arthur said, running his hands through his hair. After Eleanor, after what happened, he said he couldn't bear to handle complicated births anymore. At that moment, the sound of a car arriving at the property's gate echoed across the courtyard. Martha looked out the window and frowned. It's a silver pickup. I don't recognize the vehicle. Arthur went to the window and watched an elegant woman get out of the car. Even from a distance, he immediately recognized the proud posture and determined walk. It's Beatrice, he said with resignation, my mother-in-law. Beatrice Sterling, 63, had been one of the most influential women in Havenwood for decades. The widow of a prosperous gem merchant, she maintained her social standing through a complex network of relationships and favors. Her impeccably styled silver hair and expensive dresses made her a figure both respected and feared. Hide the girl, Martha whispered urgently to Arthur. Mrs. Beatrice can't see her here, not yet, not until we understand the situation better. Why do I have to hide? Lily asked innocently, hugging the doll to her chest. It's not hiding, dear, Martha explained quickly. It's just that we have an unexpected visitor, and adults sometimes need to talk about boring things before children can play. Arthur accompanied Martha and Lily to the upstairs room, instructing the girl to stay there and play while he received the visitor. Lily nodded obediently, but her curious eyes did not go unnoticed by the housekeeper. When Arthur went down to greet Beatrice, his mother-in-law was already on the veranda, critically examining the gardens. "Arthur, dear," she said with her usual forced smile, "I came to check on how you and my grandson are getting on. I heard some talk in town about an incident on the road yesterday." "Just a misunderstanding with a former employee," Arthur replied cautiously. "Nothing that hasn't been resolved." Beatrice entered the house with familiarity, her eyes scanning every detail as if looking for changes or irregularities. "Where is Leo? I hope he wasn't hurt in this misunderstanding." "He's fine, sleeping in his crib. Martha is looking after him." "Good. I also heard you brought someone home yesterday, a child." Arthur felt his stomach tighten. News traveled fast in Havenwood, especially when it involved prominent families. "A girl who helped me during the incident. She was alone, without family. I felt it was my duty to offer her temporary shelter." Beatrice's face hardened visibly. "Arthur, dear, you can't just pick up street children as if they were stray animals. This could lead to serious legal problems, not to mention what people will say about our family." "Our family," Arthur repeated with a note of irritation. "Beatrice, this is my house and my decision." "It's also the house where my grandson is being raised," she retorted firmly, "and I have responsibilities to my daughter's memory. Eleanor would not approve of you bringing a strange child near Leo." At that moment, a soft sound of singing drifted down the stairs. Lily, alone in the room, had begun to hum the same melody that had caught Martha's attention in the bath. The childish voice echoed through the corridors of the house, carrying the traditional Appalachian folk tune. Beatrice froze in the middle of the living room. Her normally composed face showed an expression of genuine shock. "What was that?" she asked in a hoarse voice. "The girl singing," Arthur replied, closely watching his mother-in-law's reaction. "That song," Beatrice murmured, more to herself. "How can she know that song? You recognize it?" Beatrice walked slowly toward the stairs, as if drawn by an invisible magnetism. "It's a very old folk lullaby from this area. My mother taught it to me when I was a child, and I taught it to Eleanor, but I haven't heard anyone sing it in decades." The melody was almost lost. The singing continued, soft and melancholic, carrying echoes of past generations. Arthur noticed that Beatrice had begun to tremble slightly, her hands gripping her leather handbag tightly. "Where did this child learn this song?" Beatrice asked urgently. "From the grandmother who raised her, a midwife named Hope Carter." If Arthur expected a reaction, he got one. Beatrice swayed slightly, leaning on the banister. Her face had lost all its color, and her eyes showed a mixture of terror and recognition. "Hope Carter," she repeated in a whisper. "That's impossible." "You knew Hope?" She was the midwife who helped me when Eleanor was born, 40 years ago. But she was also—" Beatrice hesitated, as if debating internally whether to reveal a long-held secret. "She was also what, Beatrice?" "She was also the woman who was present at Eleanor's delivery, at Leo's delivery." Beatrice looked directly into Arthur's eyes. "And if this child is really who I'm beginning to suspect she is, then we have a much bigger problem than just an abandoned child." Before Arthur could ask what she meant, Martha appeared at the top of the stairs with Leo in her arms. The baby had woken up and started to cry, but as soon as Lily's voice reached his ears, he calmed down instantly, turning his little head in the direction of the sound. "He always stops crying when she sings," Martha commented involuntarily, before realizing she had revealed more than she intended. Beatrice climbed the first few steps of the staircase with renewed determination. "I want to see this child, now." "Beatrice, maybe this isn't the best time," Arthur protested. But his mother-in-law had already reached the upper hallway. The bedroom door was ajar, and through the crack, Beatrice could see Lily sitting on the bed, holding the doll and singing softly. The sight of the child, her brown hair, the delicate shape of her face, the way she held the doll, made Beatrice take a step back as if she had been punched. "My God," she murmured, a hand covering her mouth. "It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible." "What's impossible?" Arthur asked, climbing the stairs behind her. Beatrice turned to him with tears in her eyes. "Arthur, this child, she looks exactly like Eleanor when she was the same age. It's not just a resemblance. It's as if I'm seeing my own daughter 40 years ago." At that moment, Lily noticed the movement in the hallway and looked toward the door. Her eyes met Beatrice's through the crack, and something strange happened. The girl smiled, a warm, recognizing smile, as if she was seeing a loved one. "Grandma Beatrice," Lily said naturally, as if she had known her for years. "Grandma Hope always talked about you." The hallway fell into absolute silence after Lily's words. Beatrice gripped the doorframe, her legs trembling visibly. The fact that the girl knew her name and mentioned Hope in such a way confirmed her worst fears and greatest hopes simultaneously. How do you know my name?" Beatrice asked in a choked voice, slowly entering the room. Lily tilted her head, as she always did when trying to remember something important. "Grandma Hope told stories about a very elegant lady who took care of all the important families in Havenwood. She said you had beautiful hair like silver and always wore dresses the color of the sky." Beatrice looked down and realized she was wearing a light blue dress, exactly as Lily had described. Her hands trembled as she moved closer to the bed where the girl was sitting. "What other things did Hope tell you about me?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "She said that you loved a daughter very much, who had hair as dark as night and sang like the birds," Lily replied, rocking the doll in her lap. "And that this daughter had a very special baby, but she had to go away before she could see him grow up." Arthur approached, watching the interaction between his mother-in-law and the girl with growing unease. There was something in the way Lily spoke about Eleanor that suggested an intimacy far too deep for a child who had supposedly never met his family. "Lily," Arthur said carefully, "did Hope tell these stories as if they were fairy tales or as if they were about real people?" "Like real people," she answered without hesitation. "Grandma always said she didn't like made-up stories because real life already had enough magic. She knew these people because she helped many of their babies be born." Beatrice sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling as she reached one out toward Lily's face. "May I?" Lily nodded, and when Beatrice gently touched her cheek, the reaction was immediate. Tears welled up in the older woman's eyes, and she pulled her hand back quickly as if she had touched fire. "It's her," Beatrice murmured to Arthur. "I don't know how. I don't understand how it's possible, but it's her." "Her who?" Arthur asked, though a part of him was already beginning to suspect the answer. Before Beatrice could reply, the sound of rapid footsteps echoed through the house. Martha appeared at the bedroom door, her face flushed from running. "Mr. Blackwood, there's a man at the door. He says he's a lawyer and needs to speak urgently about the child." "What lawyer?" Arthur asked, frowning. "Victor Thorne," Martha replied. "He says he represents the interests of the Sterling family." Beatrice's face paled even further. "I didn't send Victor here," she said quickly. "At least, not today." Arthur went downstairs with heavy steps, leaving Beatrice with Lily. In the living room, he found a tall, thin man in his 50s, wearing an impeccable dark suit. Victor Thorne was known in Havenwood as an efficient and unscrupulous lawyer, specializing in resolving delicate problems for influential families. "Mr. Blackwood," Thorne said with a professional smile, "I'm Victor Thorne, representing the interests of the Sterling family. I understand you are housing a minor child without proper documentation. By what authority do you come to my house, asking these questions?" Arthur replied coldly. "With the authority of someone concerned about the well-being of a vulnerable child and the legal implications of her current situation," Thorne said, pulling a folder from his briefcase. "I've done some preliminary investigations into this girl, and I've discovered some disturbing information." "What information?" Thorne opened the folder and spread some documents on the coffee table. "Lily has no birth certificate registered in Havenwood or any county office in the region. There are no medical, school, or social records. For all legal purposes, this child does not exist." Arthur examined the papers with growing concern. "That doesn't mean she's a threat. It means she needs help." "It means her situation here is irregular," Thorne corrected. "You have no legal authority to keep an undocumented child in your custody. This could be characterized as kidnapping, even if your intentions are good." "Kidnapping," Arthur repeated incredulously. "I saved this girl from the streets. She has no one else." "According to whom? According to the word of a 4-year-old child." Thorne stood up, walking to the window. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm not here to create problems. I'm here to offer a solution. I know an institution in Asheville that specifically handles cases like this, children without documentation, without a known family." "An institution," Arthur murmured, feeling his stomach clench. "A first-rate orphanage," Thorne said quickly, "where she will receive a proper education, medical care, and most importantly, where her situation will be regularized through the appropriate channels." At that moment, The sound of Lily's voice singing reached the ground floor again. This time, however, she was singing a different song, a melody that made Arthur shiver. It was a song Eleanor used to hum when she was nervous or worried. Thorne noticed Arthur's reaction. "Is there something specific about this child that bothers you, Mr. Blackwood?" "Why do you ask?" "Because I've done more investigating than just documentation," Thorne said, consulting his notes. "I discovered that Hope Carter, the woman who supposedly raised this girl, had access to very intimate information about your family over the years." "What do you mean by that?" Thorne moved closer to Arthur, lowering his voice. "I mean that a midwife who attended the birth of dozens of children in prominent families may have had access to secrets that other people would prefer to keep buried, and that a child raised by her might have knowledge of things she shouldn't know. Are you implying that Lily is some kind of threat?" "I'm suggesting that her presence here could bring complications you are not foreseeing," Thorne said diplomatically. "Havenwood is a small town, Mr. Blackwood. Rumors spread quickly, especially about prominent families." Arthur was about to reply when Beatrice appeared at the top of the stairs, carrying Lily in her arms. The girl had fallen asleep during the conversation, the doll clutched to her chest, and her peaceful breathing contrasted with the tension that dominated the house. "Victor," Beatrice said in a firm voice, "what are you doing here?" "Mrs. Sterling, I thought you were concerned about this situation," the lawyer replied, clearly surprised to see her carrying the child. "I've changed my mind," she said curtly, descending the stairs carefully so as not to wake Lily. "This girl is staying here. There is no discussion about it." Thorne frowned. "But madam, just yesterday you called me asking me to investigate the situation and find a legal solution." "And I said I've changed my mind," Beatrice interrupted with authority. "Your services are no longer required in this matter." "Mrs. Sterling, with all due respect, I don't think you fully understand the legal implications." "I understand them perfectly," Beatrice said, sitting on the sofa with Lily still sleeping in her arms. "And I also understand some things about this child that you do not know and do not need to know." Arthur watched the scene with growing amazement. The transformation in his mother-in-law was complete. The woman who had arrived an hour ago worried about social scandals was now protecting Lily as if she were her own granddaughter. "Beatrice," he said carefully, "did you discover something about Lily that you haven't told me?" Beatrice looked at the girl sleeping in her arms, then at Thorne, and finally at Arthur. "I've discovered that some truths are more important than social conventions or legal concerns." Thorne gathered his documents with sharp movements. "Very well, but when this situation creates problems for everyone involved, don't say I didn't warn you." After the lawyer left, Arthur sat next to Beatrice on the sofa. "Now are you going to tell me what's really going on here?" Beatrice gently stroked Lily's hair. "Arthur, dear, do you remember what Eleanor said to you shortly before she passed? About having made difficult choices to protect the ones she loved?" "Vaguely. She was very weak. She was saying a lot of confusing things." "They weren't confusing things," Beatrice said quietly. "They were confessions." Before Arthur could ask what she meant, Lily stirred in Beatrice's arms, muttering something in her sleep. The words were whispered, but clear enough for them both to hear. "Mommy Eleanor, when are you coming back?" The words Lily murmured in her sleep echoed through the room like a ghostly refrain. Arthur was paralyzed, watching the girl sleeping peacefully in Beatrice's arms, unable to comprehend how a child who had supposedly never known Eleanor could speak his wife's name with such familiarity. "Beatrice," he said in a hoarse voice, "I need you to explain exactly what is happening here." Beatrice gently rocked Lily, who had fallen back into a deep sleep. "Arthur, there are things about Leo's birth that you don't know. Things Eleanor made me promise I would never tell. But now I think I have to. What kind of things? Before Beatrice could answer, Martha appeared in the room carrying a tray with tea. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured the cups, and Arthur noticed that the housekeeper avoided looking directly at Lily. "Martha," Arthur said, "do you also know something you haven't told me?" The housekeeper hesitated, exchanging a significant look with Beatrice. "Sir, on the day of Mrs. Eleanor's delivery, I overheard some conversations between her and Dr. Hughes that I didn't quite understand at the time." "What conversations?" "They were talking about difficult decisions, about protecting children, about Hope having to take someone away," Martha said quickly. "I thought it was just delirium from the labor, with the pain and effort. But now—" Beatrice sighed deeply. "Arthur, sit down. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about that day." Arthur settled into the armchair opposite the sofa, his heart pounding. "I'm listening." "Eleanor didn't just have Leo," Beatrice said quietly. "She had twins." The silence that followed was deafening. Arthur felt as if the floor had opened up beneath his feet. "That's impossible. Dr. Hughes never mentioned—" "Because Eleanor made him promise he wouldn't," Beatrice interrupted. "One of the children was born with serious complications. Her lungs weren't properly developed, and Dr. Hughes wasn't sure if she would survive." "Her?" Arthur repeated, instinctively looking at the sleeping Lily. Eleanor was in a panic. She knew her own condition was grave, that she might not survive the birth, and seeing one of her daughters struggling to breathe, she made a desperate decision. Martha stepped forward, completing the story she clearly knew. "Mrs. Eleanor called for Hope and asked her to take the girl. She said that if both children stayed here and something happened to her, you wouldn't be able to care for two premature babies on your own." Arthur stood up abruptly, walking to the window. "You're telling me I had two children, and Eleanor gave one of them to Hope to raise without telling me?" "She wanted to tell you," Beatrice said, her voice choked with emotion. "But the complications worsened quickly. Hope took the girl in a desperate attempt to save her, promising that if she survived and recovered, she would bring her back. And why did that never happen?" Beatrice looked at Lily with tenderness. "Because by the time Hope managed to stabilize the child, using her knowledge of traditional medicine and intensive care, Eleanor had already passed, and Hope, fearing you might reject the girl for reminding you of the loss of your wife, decided to raise her as her own granddaughter." Arthur turned back to the two women, tears in his eyes. "So Lily is—" "Your daughter," Beatrice said simply. "Leo's twin sister." At that moment, as if sensing the emotional tension in the air, Lily began to stir in Beatrice's lap. Her eyes opened slowly, and she looked around the room with the confusion of someone waking up in a new place. "Grandma Beatrice?" she murmured, rubbing her small eyes. "I had a dream that you were singing to me." "What kind of dream, dear?" Beatrice asked in a soft voice. "You were in a big room like this one, holding two babies. One was crying a lot, but the other was quiet. And you were singing that song that Grandma Hope taught me." Arthur approached slowly. "Lily, do you remember anything about when you were very little, before you lived with Hope?" Lily thought for a moment, her forehead wrinkling in concentration. "Sometimes I dream that I'm in a warm, dark place, and I hear loud beats, like a drum. And there's a voice singing softly, always the same song." "The heartbeats," Martha whispered. "She's remembering being in the womb." "And there's one more thing," Lily continued, looking directly at Arthur. "In my dreams, there's always another child with me, a boy who makes the same noises as me. Grandma Hope said maybe it was my dream brother." Arthur knelt in front of the sofa, bringing himself to Lily's level. "Lily, "How do you feel when you hear Leo cry?" "I feel sad," she answered immediately. "I feel like I need to take care of him, like it's my responsibility to make him stop crying." "And when you manage to calm him?" "I feel happy, like something broken inside me has been fixed." Beatrice hugged Lily tighter, tears streaming down her face. "My granddaughter, my dear granddaughter that I thought I'd lost forever." Lily looked confusedly from Beatrice to Arthur. "I don't understand. Are you saying I'm not an orphan?" "You were never an orphan, my dear," Arthur said, his voice thick with emotion. "You always had a family. We just didn't know where you were." At that moment, the sound of crying came from upstairs. Leo had woken from his nap and was clearly uncomfortable. Lily immediately stood up from Beatrice's lap. "Can I go calm him down?" she asked. "I know how to make him stop crying." Arthur nodded, following Lily up the stairs. In the baby's room, she approached the crib and began making the same soft sounds she had used in the car. Leo stopped crying instantly, his small eyes fixing on Lily's face, as if he recognized her. "Hi, brother," Lily whispered, holding out her little finger for Leo to grasp. "I'm back." Leo's reaction was extraordinary. The baby, who rarely smiled and spent most of his time crying or restless, gave his first genuine smile. His tiny fingers closed tightly around Lily's, as if he never wanted to let go again. "They recognize each other," Arthur murmured, watching the interaction between the two. "Even after all these months apart, they recognize each other." Martha, who had followed them upstairs, watched the scene with admiration. "It's the twin bond," she said. "I've read about it in magazines. Twins can maintain emotional connections even when separated." Lily began to hum softly to Leo, the same melody she had used to calm him in the car. The baby became completely still, his eyes never leaving his sister's face. "Daddy," Lily said suddenly, turning to Arthur. The word came out naturally, without hesitation or embarrassment. "Yes, my daughter," Arthur replied, surprised at how easily the words came. "Can I sleep in the room with Leo tonight? I think he gets scared alone." Arthur looked at Martha, who nodded in approval. "Of course you can. We'll set up a little bed for you right next to the crib." While Martha went to get bedding, Arthur remained in the room, watching his two children finally reunited. Lily had sat on the floor next to the crib, continuing to hum to Leo, who was now sleeping peacefully. "Daddy," Lily said again, "Grandma Hope always said that one day I would find my real family. She said I would know in my heart when it happened." "And did you know?" Lily nodded, smiling. "Ever since I saw you on the road. My heart felt warm, just like when Grandma Hope made me warm oatmeal on cold days." That night, for the first time since Leo's birth, the house was completely silent. The two siblings slept peacefully in the same room, and Arthur finally managed to rest, knowing his family was complete. But outside the property, hidden among the trees, a figure watched the house with binoculars. Frank had been released from the police station that afternoon, and his thirst for revenge had only intensified during his hours in custody. 3 days had passed since the revelation that had transformed the Blackwood family's life. Lily had adapted to the farm's routine, with a naturalness that surprised everyone, as if she had always belonged there. In the morning, she would help Martha prepare breakfast. In the afternoon, she played in the garden while Leo slept, and at night, she sang to her brother until they both fell asleep. Arthur watched every moment of this adaptation with a mixture of joy and guilt. Joy at having his family reunited, guilt for not having known of Lily's existence for the first 4 years of her life. He had begun to notice small details that now made sense, the way she held objects with her left hand, just like Leo, the way she furrowed her brow when concentrating, identical to his own habit. "Daddy?" Lily said that Thursday morning, finding Arthur in the library where he was trying to work. "Can I ask you a question?" "Of course, my daughter. What do you want to know?" "Why did Grandma Hope never bring me back home? Did she know you were my family?" The question hit Arthur like a stab. He had asked himself the same question hundreds of times in the past few days. "I think Hope was afraid," he said carefully, "afraid that I wouldn't be able to take care of 2 children alone after your mommy passed." "But you could have," Lily said with the innocent confidence of children. "You take very good care of Leo. And you have Martha and Grandma Beatrice to help." "Yes. I guess Hope didn't know that at the time." Lily approached the desk where Arthur was working and looked at the scattered papers. "Are these papers about the pretty stones you take from the earth?" "They are. Reports on our mining. Grandma Hope knew a man who worked with stones. She always got worried when she talked about him." Arthur looked up from the documents. "Worried how?" "She said he had anger in his heart, and that people with anger in their hearts sometimes do bad things when they don't get what they want." A chill ran down Arthur's spine. "Did Hope mention this man's name?" "Frank," Lily said without hesitation. "She said he worked for you, but had problems with drinking, and that it made him very angry." Arthur stood up abruptly. Frank had been released from the police station 2 days ago, but no one knew where he was. The local police had done some checks, but without solid evidence of an attempted kidnapping or specific threats, they couldn't hold him. "Lily, did you tell this to Martha or Grandma Beatrice?" "No. I just remembered now because I saw you looking at papers like the ones Grandma Hope kept in an old box." At that moment, Martha entered the library carrying Leo, who had woken from his morning nap. "Mr. Blackwood, there's someone at the gate. Says it's the mail carrier, but it's not the usual delivery time." "What kind of delivery?" "He didn't say, just that he needs to personally deliver an urgent a package." Arthur swapped Lily on his lap for Leo in Martha's arms. "Stay here with the children. I'll go see what this is about." At the property gate, a young man in a mail carrier's uniform held a large envelope. "Mr. Arthur Blackwood?" "That's me." "Urgent delivery. I need a signature." Arthur signed the receipt and opened the envelope right there at the gate. Inside were photographs. Photographs of Lily playing in the garden, of Leo in his crib, of Martha hanging clothes on the line, all clearly taken from a distance, with a zoom lens over the past few days. On the back of each photo, a handwritten message: "Happy families can lose everything very quickly." Arthur ran back to the house, locking all the doors and windows. He found Martha in the living room with the 2 children and showed her the photographs. "My God," she murmured, instinctively checking if the curtains were closed. "He's been watching the house. How many days has he been out there?" "I don't know, but now I know Hope was right about him having anger in his heart." Lily, who had been quiet until then, approached. "Can I see the pictures?" "No, my daughter. These are pictures a bad man took." "Is it the man from the road? The one who wanted to hurt Leo?" Arthur nodded, hugging the girl. "But we won't let him get near you." "Grandma Hope taught me something about bad men," Lily said thoughtfully. "What did she teach you?" "That they only have power when people are afraid. But when families stick together and protect each other, the bad men become small." Martha immediately called Beatrice, who arrived at the farm in less than an hour, accompanied by 2 private security guards she had hired. The woman entered the house with military determination. "Where are the photographs?" she asked without preamble. Arthur showed her the images, and Beatrice examined each one with professional attention. They were taken from at least 3 different angles. "He's been here for days, studying the house's routine. What do you think he wants?" "Revenge," Beatrice said simply. "Men like Frank, when they lose everything, need someone to blame. And you've become the symbol of everything that went wrong in his life." That afternoon, the security guards did a full sweep of the property. They found evidence that someone had been camping in an area of dense trees about 300 yards from the main house, food scraps, liquor bottles, and most disturbingly, a notebook with detailed notes on the family's schedule. "He wrote everything down," said the more experienced guard, a man named John Carter. "The time the kids wake up, when the housekeeper goes to the market, when you leave for work. He's planning something specific." "What kind of thing?" Arthur asked. "Probably a way to grab the children when they're most vulnerable." That evening, the whole family gathered in the living room to discuss security measures. Lily remained quiet for most of the conversation, playing with Leo on Martha's lap, but Arthur noticed she was paying attention to every word. "Maybe we should leave town for a few weeks," Beatrice suggested. "I have a property in the mountains where you could stay until Frank is caught." "Running away won't solve it," Arthur said. "And besides, I don't want to take the children from their home now that Lily has finally settled in." "Then we increase security here," Beatrice decided. "More guards, a better alarm system, direct communication with the police." "Can I suggest something?" Lily said suddenly. Surprisingly, "Adults." "Of course, sweetheart," Arthur replied. "Grandma Hope always said that when dangerous animals get close to the house, it's better to make them come out of hiding than to wait for them to attack." "What do you mean?" "If you know where he's hiding, why don't you go talk to him? Sometimes bad people just need someone to listen to why they're angry." The adults looked at each other. The suggestion from a 4-year-old was surprisingly sensible. Frank was acting out of desperation and anger, emotions that could potentially be addressed through conversation rather than confrontation. "It's risky, John," Carter said, "but it could work if it's done the right way, with police backup on controlled ground." "I'll talk to the sheriff tomorrow," Arthur decided. "Maybe we can arrange a supervised meeting." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Lily rose silently from her small bed next to Leo's crib. She walked to the bedroom window and looked out in the direction of the trees where they knew Frank was hiding. "Grandma Hope," she whispered to the stars, "help me protect my family. Teach me how to make the angry man go away without hurting anyone." The wind rustled the curtains gently, as if in reply, and for the first time since arriving at the farm, Lily felt she had a specific mission to protect her brother and her new family, using everything Hope had taught her about courage, kindness, and the strength that comes from having a pure heart. But she didn't know that at that very moment, Frank had left his hiding place in the trees and was silently approaching the house, carrying a rope and a can of gasoline, determined to force Arthur to understand what it meant to lose everything you love. Lily woke, in the middle of the night, with a strange feeling in her chest, as if something were wrong. The room was plunged into silence, only the sound of Leo's quiet breathing coming from the crib beside her. But there was something else, a subtle noise she couldn't identify. She got up silently from her small bed and walked to the window. The full moon illuminated the farm's garden, casting long shadows among the trees. It was then that she saw a silhouette moving furtively near the shed where Martha kept the gardening tools. Without making a sound, Lily left the room and went down the stairs carefully. She had learned from Hope that sometimes you had to check on things yourself before waking the adults. In the living room, she positioned herself near the window that overlooked the side garden. Frank was there, fiddling with something near the outer wall of the house. Lily saw him pouring liquid from a large can along the base of the building. The strong smell reached her through the cracks in the poorly sealed window, an odor she recognized from the times Hope had cleaned wounds with alcohol. Lily's heart raced. Hope had told her stories about bad people who used flammable liquids to harm houses and families. She knew she had to wake the adults, but she also knew that if she ran upstairs now, Frank might hear her and do something terrible before they could stop him. Then she remembered something Hope always said. When you can't fight something bigger than you have to be smarter than it. Lily walked silently to the kitchen, where she knew Martha kept an emergency whistle she used when she needed to call someone from the garden. She took the whistle and returned to the living room, positioning herself near the back door. She took a deep breath and blew the whistle with all the force her small lungs could muster. The shrill sound echoed through the house and garden, shattering the silence of the night like an alarm. Immediately, lights flickered on throughout the house. Footsteps ran across the upper floor. Confused voices shouted, asking what was happening, and Lily heard Frank curse outside before running toward the trees. Arthur came running down the stairs, followed by Martha and the guards who were sleeping in the back rooms. "Lily, what happened? Why are you down here?" "The bad man was pouring smelly liquid on the house," she said quickly, pointing to the back door. "I think he wanted to make a fire." John Carter ran outside with a powerful flashlight, followed by the other guard. In a few minutes, they confirmed Lily's suspicions. Gasoline had been poured all along the side wall of the house, and a trail led to a spot where Frank had apparently prepared materials to light the fire. "If she hadn't woken up and sounded the alarm," John Carter said in a grave voice, "in 15 minutes this house would have been in flames with all of you sleeping inside." Martha hugged Lily tightly. "My brave girl. How did you know you should check?" "Grandma Hope always said that children feel danger before adults do, because they aren't worried about other things," Lily explained. "She taught me to trust it when my heart felt tight for no reason." Arthur knelt to his daughter's level. "Lily, you saved our family. All of us. It's what I had to do," she said simply. "Protect my brother and you, just like Grandma Hope taught me." Beatrice arrived 20 minutes later, accompanied by a police car she had called on her way. Sheriff Mark Pereira examined the evidence with a grim expression. "Now we have attempted arson," he said. "This completely changes the legal situation. I can issue an immediate warrant for his arrest." "Where could he be hiding now?" Arthur asked. "Probably still in the area. A desperate man doesn't usually go far from the source of his obsession." John Carter approached the group. "Mr. Blackwood, we found something else. It looks like he was planning something much more elaborate than just setting the house on fire." "What do you mean?" "There were ropes tied in the trees near the children's bedroom window. I think the plan was to set the house on fire, to force you out, and then grab the children during the confusion." Arthur's blood ran cold. The thought of Frank grabbing Lily and Leo during a fire was too terrifying to contemplate. "Sheriff," he said firmly, "I want to organize an operation to capture this man today. I can't continue to live with my family under this threat." "I agree," the sheriff said. "I'll mobilize a search team at dawn, but until then, I suggest you leave the house. It's too risky to stay here." "Where can we go?" Martha asked. Beatrice spoke up. "My house in town has a full security system. You can stay there until Frank is caught." "I don't want to leave," Lily said suddenly, surprising everyone. "This is our home. If we leave, he'll think he won." "My dear," Arthur said patiently, "sometimes it's smarter to make a temporary retreat." "Grandma Hope told me a story about that," Lily insisted. "She said there was a man who kept scaring the families in town, and everyone ran away. But one family decided to stay and face him, and the man found out he wasn't as strong as he thought." "This isn't a story, Lily," Beatrice said with concern. "This is a real and dangerous situation. I know. But if we run, he'll just keep chasing us. Grandma Hope always said that problems you don't face just keep growing like weeds." Arthur looked at his daughter with growing admiration. At 4 years old, she displayed a wisdom and courage that many adults lacked. But he also recognized that she had grown up in circumstances that had forced her to mature faster than normal. "And what do you think we should do?" he asked, genuinely curious about her answer. "Stay here but set a trap," Lily said thoughtfully. "If he wants to get us so badly, let's let him try, but in a way that he can't." The sheriff frowned. Using a child as bait is absolutely out of the question. Not as bait, Lily said, as help. I know things about him that you don't. What things? Grandma Hope always said he drank a lot when he got nervous. And when he drinks, he gets slow to think. If you leave bottles of liquor somewhere he can see them, he'll drink and be easier to catch. John Carter looked at the sheriff. The strategy isn't entirely absurd. If we create a controlled situation, it's too risky, Martha protested. More risky than leaving him loose to try again, Lily asked. Next time he might be smarter. Arthur weighed the options. Fleeing meant living in constant fear, never knowing when Frank might reappear. Facing the situation, on the other hand, offered the possibility of resolving the problem for good. Sheriff, he said finally, what kind of operation could you organize if we decided to use our property as the place to capture Frank? I'd need special authorization, a specialized team, and most importantly, guarantees that no civilians would be put in real danger. I could help with the details I know about him, Lily offered. Grandma Hope told me a lot of things about how he acts when he's angry. Beatrice knelt beside her granddaughter. Lily, dear, you are very brave, but this is a job for adults. Grandma Hope always said that protecting your family is a job for everyone who loves the family, Lily replied, and I love you all. At that moment, the sound of a distant engine echoed across the property. Everyone froze, listening intently. The sound grew slowly closer, as if someone were driving unhurriedly along the rural roads surrounding the farm. He's back, John Carter whispered, checking his weapon. Or he never left, the sheriff said, speaking quickly into his radio to call for backup. Lily walked to the window, watching the distant lights moving between the trees. He's not going to give up, she said, with a disturbing certainty. He'll keep coming back until he gets what he wants, or until someone makes him stop for good. Arthur looked at his daughter and made a decision that would change everything. Sheriff, let's organize this operation, but this time we end this once and for all. The operation was planned with military precision during the early hours of the next morning. Sheriff Mark Pereira brought in a specialized team of 6 men, while Arthur and John Carter studied detailed maps of the property to identify the best observation and interception points. The plan is simple, the sheriff explained to everyone involved. We create a situation that looks normal, but with visual traps that will lure Frank to a controlled location where we can surround him without risk to the family. Lily had insisted on participating in the discussions, and her contribution had proven valuable. Grandma Hope always said he likes to catch people when they're distracted, she explained. If you pretend you're having a party or something, he'll think it's the right time to attack. A party? Arthur asked, intrigued. Not a real party, Lily clarified patiently. Just make it look like there are a lot of happy, carefree people. He'll want to ruin the happiness. Martha, who had remained silent for most of the planning, suggested something that surprised everyone. We can pretend we're celebrating Lily's birthday. It would be natural to have music, decorations, people coming and going. But it's not my birthday, Lily protested. He doesn't know that, John Carter said with approval. And it gives us a reason to have constant movement in the house, people coming in and out, perfect for positioning our team without looking suspicious. Beatrice arrived at noon, bringing birthday decorations she had bought in town. If we're going to do this, let's do it right, she said, kissing Lily's forehead. My granddaughter deserves a real party, even if it is a trap. During the afternoon, the property was transformed. Colorful balloons were hung from the trees, a table was set up in the garden with a festive tablecloth, and cheerful music played at a moderate volume. To any outside observer, it truly looked like an intimate family celebration. The police team positioned themselves strategically, 2 men in the trees with a direct view of the garden, two at the back of the house, one on the access road, and the sheriff inside the house with communication equipment. John Carter remained close to the family, disguised as a party guest. "Remember," the sheriff instructed, "as soon as he appears, wait for my signal. No one moves until he is completely surrounded." Lily played in the garden with Leo, who was lying on a colorful blanket under a tree. To anyone watching from a distance, it was a perfectly innocent scene of children enjoying a birthday party. "Daddy," Lily said when Arthur approached to check on her, "I think he's already watching us." "How do you know?" "I feel like someone is watching. It's just like when Grandma Hope taught me to feel when dangerous animals were near our home." Arthur glanced discreetly toward the trees where they knew Frank had hidden before. At first he saw nothing, but then he noticed a subtle glint among the branches. Frank was there, using binoculars to watch the party. "He's there," Arthur murmured into the small microphone he carried in his shirt pocket. "Confirmed," came the sheriff's reply. "Hold positions." For the next 2 hours, they kept up the charade. Martha served fake cake, Beatrice sang "Happy Birthday" with exaggerated enthusiasm, and Lily feigned genuine joy while opening empty presents. Leo, oblivious to the tension, slept peacefully on the blanket. As the sun began to set, Frank finally made his move. The observers reported that he had left his hiding place and was slowly approaching the house, using the shadows of dusk as cover. "Positions," the sheriff whispered into the radio. "He's coming." Lily, who had been instructed on what to do when the time came, picked up Leo and walked slowly toward the house, as if it were natural to take her brother inside as night began to fall. Frank emerged from the trees as the family was heading to the veranda. He had been drinking, that was obvious from his uncoordinated movements, but he carried a hunting knife that gleamed in the faint evening light. "Arthur!" he yelled, stumbling slightly. "Your party's over. Now you're going to understand what it's like to lose everything you love." "Frank, let's talk," Arthur said, following the agreed-upon protocol. "It doesn't have to be this way." "Talk?" Frank laughed bitterly. "You destroyed my life and you want to talk? Where was your talk when you fired me? Where was it when my family fell apart?" Lily, still carrying Leo, stopped on the veranda and turned to face Frank. "Why do you want to hurt my family?" she asked in a clear, firm voice. Frank looked at the girl with a confused expression. You're that girl from the road, the one who threw dirt in my eyes." "I am, and I still think you shouldn't hurt people who did nothing to you." "They did!" Frank shouted, pointing the knife at Arthur. "He took everything from me." "Grandma Hope told me that you used to lose important papers and lie about dangerous things at work," Lily said calmly. "She was worried because other workers could get hurt because of your lies." Frank was momentarily taken aback. How did that old woman know that?" "Because she knew everyone in Havenwood, and everyone knew you drank too much and didn't take care of your work properly." "That's not true." "Grandma Hope never lied," Lily continued, her voice maintaining the calm tone she had learned to use with agitated people. "She said that people who do wrong things always try to blame other people when they get caught." The sheriff watched the interaction on his monitor, impressed by the ability of a 4-year-old to keep an armed and intoxicated man distracted. The team had moved into position, but Lily was creating the perfect opportunity for a non-violent capture. "Mr. Frank," Lily said, taking a step forward, "do you want to hurt little children because you're sad you lost your family?" Yes, no, it's complicated," Frank muttered, clearly confused. "Hurting other families won't bring yours back," she said gently. "Grandma Hope always said that when we do bad things because we're suffering, the suffering only gets bigger." "Your grandma talked too much," Frank said, but his voice had lost its aggression. The knife trembled in his hand. "She talked because she cared about people, even people who did wrong things." Lily took another step closer. "Do you have children?" "I did," Frank said, tears beginning to stream down his face. My girl was your age when everything fell apart. Would she want to see you hurting other children? Frank looked at Lily, then at Leo sleeping peacefully in her arms, and finally let the knife fall to the ground. No, he whispered. My Ellie would hate what I've become. It was at that moment that the team moved in. Frank was surrounded and detained without resistance, crying as he was handcuffed. Lily remained on the veranda, gently rocking Leo, who had slept through the entire confrontation. How did you know that would work? Arthur asked later, after Frank had been taken away and the entire operation formalized. Grandma Hope taught me that people who do bad things are almost always just very sad inside, Lily explained, and that sometimes, if you treat them with kindness instead of fear, they remember who they were before they got sad. Beatrice hugged her granddaughter tightly. You are an extraordinary girl, Lily. Today, you saved this family again. It's what I had to do, Lily said simply. Grandma Hope always said that when you love a family, you do anything to protect it. That night, for the first time since Lily had arrived at the farm, the entire family slept soundly, knowing the threat had passed. But more important than their safety was the understanding that they had a special girl in their home, whose wisdom and courage went far beyond her 4 years. The next day, however, an unexpected discovery about the documents Hope had left for Lily would reveal yet another secret that would forever change everyone's perspective on the history of the Blackwood family. The morning after Frank's capture, Lily was playing peacefully in the garden with Leo when Martha approached, carrying an old wooden box. The housekeeper had found the object hidden behind some clothes in the wardrobe of the room where Lily slept, clearly placed there by the girl herself. Lily, dear, what is this box? Martha asked, sitting on the grass beside the children. It's Grandma Hope's papers, Lily replied, looking up from her toys. She gave it to me before she went away and told me to keep it in a safe place. What kind of papers? I can't read very well yet, Lily admitted, but Grandma said they were very important and that one day someone would need them to understand things about my family. Martha carefully opened the box. Inside were documents yellowed with age, some old photographs, and a sealed envelope with a handwritten letter. Her eyes widened when she recognized Eleanor's elegant handwriting on some of the papers. "Mr. Blackwood," she called out, her voice filled with urgency. "Please, come here immediately." Arthur ran out of the house, fearing something had happened to the children. He found Martha examining the documents with a shocked expression, while Lily continued to play normally, oblivious to the importance of what had been discovered. "What is this?" he asked, kneeling beside the housekeeper. "Correspondence between Mrs. Eleanor and Hope," Martha said in a trembling voice. "And medical documents. Mr. Blackwood, I think we've discovered why Hope never brought Lily back." Arthur picked up one of the papers and read it in silence. It was a letter dated 6 months before the twins' birth, where Eleanor described her concerns about complications in her pregnancy and asked Hope for advice on twin births. "Eleanor knew she was expecting twins for much longer than I thought," he murmured, continuing to read. "Keep reading," Martha urged, pointing to a specific passage. The letter revealed that Eleanor had discovered through tests that one of the children showed signs of slower lung development than the other. The doctors had recommended immediate hospitalization after birth, but Eleanor trusted Hope's traditional knowledge of caring for premature babies more. "She planned everything," Arthur whispered, comprehension dawning on his face. "Eleanor planned for Hope to take the more fragile child because she knew I wouldn't be able to properly care for 2 premature children on my own." "And there's more," Martha said, showing him another document. A letter that Hope wrote to Mrs. Eleanor after the birth. Arthur read Hope's letter, which detailed the first few months of caring for Lily. The midwife described how she had used homemade remedies and traditional techniques to strengthen the girl's lungs, how she had sung specific lullabies that helped with breathing, and most importantly, how she had promised Eleanor that she would only bring Lily back when she was completely healthy and strong. Hope kept her promise, a voice said from behind them. It was Beatrice, who had arrived unnoticed. She brought Lily back when the girl was strong enough to survive anything. But why didn't she tell me the truth when Eleanor passed? Arthur asked, frustration evident in his voice. Beatrice sat on the grass beside them. Because you were devastated, Arthur. Hope feared that if she told you about Lily at that moment, you might reject her for associating the girl with the loss of Eleanor. That's ridiculous. I would never reject my own daughter. Hope didn't know that, Beatrice said gently. She only knew a man broken by grief who could barely take care of one baby, let alone two. Lily, who had been listening to the conversation while playing, approached the group. Grandma Hope always got sad when she talked about not being able to bring me back sooner, she said. She said she had promised my heart mum that she would only bring me when I was strong, like a little bird ready to fly. Heart mum? Arthur asked. That's what Grandma called the lady with dark hair who sang in my dreams, Lily explained. She said some mothers have children in their bellies, but other mothers have children in their hearts, and that my heart mum loved me so much that she asked Grandma to take care of me until I got strong. Martha continued to examine the documents in the box and found something that made her hands tremble. Mr. Blackwood, there's a birth certificate here. For Lily? Yes, but... Martha hesitated, checking the document once more. It's signed by Dr. Hughes and has a specific date recorded. Arthur took the document and examined it carefully. The certificate showed that Lily had been born on the exact same day and at the same time as Leo, definitively confirming they were twins. But there was something more disturbing in the document. Why was this certificate never officially registered? He asked. Because, a familiar voice said from behind them, I asked Hope to keep it until the right time came. They all turned to see Dr. Hughes walking slowly across the garden. The retired doctor, now 72, seemed to have aged decades in the few weeks since Lily had appeared in the family. Dr. Hughes! Arthur exclaimed, standing up. How did you know we were here? Martha called me yesterday and told me about the situation with the ex-employee, the doctor explained, approaching slowly. I came to check if everyone was okay and to finally fulfill a promise I made to Eleanor. What promise? Dr. Hughes looked at Lily, who was watching him with innocent curiosity. I promised that when Lily came home, I would tell the whole truth about that day, the whole truth. Beatrice stood up, a worried expression on her face. Samuel, maybe this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, the doctor said firmly. This family has been through enough suffering because of secrets. It's time for complete clarity. Dr. Hughes sat heavily in a garden chair that Martha had brought. Arthur, when Eleanor went into labor, she was aware that she might not survive. The complications were severe, and she had refused a C-section that could have saved her life but harmed the children. I knew it was risky, Arthur said quietly. But you didn't know that Eleanor had made a specific choice about what would happen if she didn't survive, the doctor continued. She asked that in the event of her passing, Lily be raised far away from here until she turned 4. Why? Because she had dreamed that Lily would be special, but that she would need a different kind of care than a hospital or a traditional family could offer. Eleanor trusted Hope's ancestral knowledge about children born with special gifts. Lily approached Dr. Hughes with curiosity. Are you the doctor who helped me and Leo be born? I am, my dear. Grandma Hope always talked about you. She said you were very wise, but that you got too sad after my heart mom went away. Dr. Hughes cleaned his glasses with trembling hands. Hope was right. I was very sad. Losing Eleanor was one of the most difficult experiences of my career. But you helped save me and my brother, Lily said with her childish wisdom. Grandma always said that was more important than the sadness. Arthur knelt beside the doctor's chair. Dr. Hughes, is there anything else I need to know? The elderly doctor looked at Lily, then at Leo sleeping peacefully on the blanket, and finally at Arthur. There is one last thing. Something I only discovered recently when I started reviewing Eleanor's medical files. What? Eleanor left a recorded message for you, a message she asked me to deliver only when Lily returned home and you were reunited as a family. The silence that followed was profound. Arthur felt as if time had stopped, as if Eleanor were about to speak to him again after months of longing and unanswered questions. Where is this message? He asked in a hoarse voice. In my car, Dr. Hughes said, standing up slowly. I thought today would be the right day for you to hear it. Dr. Hughes returned from the car, carrying a small digital recorder that looked like it had been used several times over the years. His hands trembled slightly as he sat down again in the garden chair, the device resting in his lap as if it were a fragile treasure. Eleanor recorded this message in the early hours before labor began, he explained in a soft voice. She knew the chances were slim and wanted to make sure her words reached you if something happened. Arthur positioned himself beside Lily, who had sat on the grass with Leo in her lap. Martha and Beatrice moved closer, forming an intimate circle around the doctor. The afternoon air was thick with anticipation and emotion. Are you sure you're ready to hear this? Dr. Hughes asked, looking specifically at Lily. It will be your mother's voice speaking directly to you. Lily nodded solemnly. Grandma Hope always said that one day I would hear my heart mom talking to me. I think today is that day. Dr. Hughes pressed the play button. There were a few seconds of silence, then Eleanor's voice echoed through the garden, clear and full of love, as if she were there with them. My love, Arthur, if you're hearing this, it means our time has come, and I had to leave sooner than we would have liked. I don't want you to blame yourself for anything that happened. This was my choice, and I made it because I love you and our children more than my own life. Arthur closed his eyes, tears streaming silently down his face. Eleanor's voice sounded exactly as he remembered, sweet and firm at the same time. First, I want you to know about our two special children. Yes, two. Leo and Lily are twins, and they both carry different parts of my heart and yours. Leo has your strength and determination, Arthur. He will be a natural leader, someone who protects others. But Lily, our Lily has something even more special. Lily looked up with her big eyes, paying attention to every word as if she were finally meeting a part of herself she had always missed. Lily was born with a gift that comes from my family, something few people understand. She has the ability to feel people's hearts, to soothe deep pains, and to bring peace where there is conflict. That's why I asked Hope to care for her in the early years. Hope understands these gifts and would know how to help Lily develop them properly. Arthur, my love, I know it will be hard to accept that I kept Lily away from you, but it was necessary. Our daughter needed to learn from Hope about medicinal plants, about how to read the signs of nature, about how to use her sensitivity to help others, things I wouldn't have had time to teach if I were no longer here. Eleanor's voice paused, and they could hear her taking a deep breath before continuing. Lily, my heart daughter, if you're hearing this, it means it's time to come home. I hope Hope taught you well about who you are and about the special gift you carry. Always use your gifts to protect your family and to help people who are suffering. You have a light inside you that can heal wounds that normal medicine can't reach. Lily stood up and approached the recorder as if she wanted to touch her mother's voice. Heart, Mom, she whispered. I learned everything Grandma Hope taught me, and I used it to protect Daddy and Leo. Martha, Eleanor's voice continued, I know you're listening too. Thank you for taking care of my family when I no longer can. You were always more than a housekeeper to us. You were a true friend, and I know you will continue to be a second mother to my children. Martha sobbed openly, covering her face with her hands. I will always take care of them, Mrs. Eleanor, always. Mother, the voice then addressed Beatrice, I know our relationship wasn't always easy, but you have always loved this family deeply. I ask you to accept Lily as your true granddaughter. She has as much of you as she does of me, your strength, your determination, your ability to protect those you love. Beatrice hugged Lily with renewed strength, whispering promises of love and protection in the girl's ear. And finally, Eleanor said, her voice growing weaker but still full of love, I want you all to know that I chose to leave this world, knowing my children would be surrounded by the love of a true family. Arthur, you are the best man I have ever known. Lily and Leo are lucky to have you as their father. There's one last thing I need to reveal, Eleanor continued after a long pause. Lily not only has special gifts of healing and intuition, she will also carry the responsibility of caring for a family secret that only Hope and I knew. Arthur frowned, looking to Dr. Hughes for an explanation, but the doctor just pointed to the recorder, indicating they should keep listening. A long time ago, my great-grandmother discovered a deposit of precious stones in a remote part of the property that was never explored. She hid this information because she knew that revealing it could bring trouble to the family. Hope knows the exact location, and she taught it to Lily through stories and songs that seemed like just child's play. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of the wind in the trees. Everyone looked at Lily, who seemed to be processing information she hadn't fully understood until now. The stories of the magic stone, Lily murmured, her eyes lighting up with sudden comprehension. Grandma, Hope, always told stories about a special stone hidden where the moon touches the earth on the clearest night of the month. Do you know where that place is? Arthur asked, still trying to absorb the revelation. I do. Grandma took me there a few times to gather medicinal herbs. She said it was our special secret. Arthur, Eleanor's voice continued from the recorder, use this information wisely, and only when the family truly needs it. The stones should serve to protect and care for Lily and Leo, not for easy wealth. And remember, Lily inherited not only the knowledge of the location, but also the intuition to know when it is appropriate to use that knowledge. My loves, Eleanor said, her voice growing fainter. I know my time is running out, but I want you to know that I will always be with you. Every time Lily uses her gifts to heal someone, every time Leo shows courage to protect others, every time you love each other as a family, I will be there. Take care of each other, love each other, and remember, our family has been blessed not only with love, but with special responsibilities. Lily and Leo have important destinies, and you are the people chosen to guide them on this journey. The recording ended with the sound of Eleanor's soft breath fading away, leaving a deep silence in the garden. Lily approached Arthur and climbed into his lap. Daddy, she said with her natural wisdom, now I understand why Grandma Hope always said I was special. It wasn't just because I was different. It was because I had important jobs to do. What jobs, my daughter? To take care of you. And Leo, to use what I've learned to help people who are suffering and to keep the family secrets until it's the right time to use them. Arthur hugged her tightly, finally understanding the magnitude of what Eleanor had planned. His wife had not just given birth to 2 children. She had orchestrated a complex journey that would ensure her children grew up with purpose, protected, and prepared for responsibilities they couldn't yet imagine. And now? Martha asked, wiping tears from her eyes. Now, Beatrice said with renewed determination, We protect this family and honor Eleanor's memory by doing exactly what she asked. We raise these children with love, prepare them for their destinies, and keep safe the secrets entrusted to us. But as the family finally understood the magnitude of their responsibilities, none of them realized that Victor Thorne had been hiding in the nearby bushes, recording the entire conversation with professional equipment he had brought to document any information he could use against the Blackwood family. 3 days had passed since the revelation of Eleanor's message, and the family had settled into a quiet routine as they processed everything they had discovered. Lily had shown Arthur the place. Hope had taught her through child's play, a hidden clearing where ancient markings on a stone did indeed indicate the presence of an unexplored deposit. Arthur had decided not to touch the deposit for now, following Eleanor's advice to use the knowledge only when the family truly needed it. Instead, he focused on legally documenting Lily's situation and organizing his business to spend more time with his children. It was on a rainy January morning that Victor Thorne reappeared at the farm, this time accompanied by 2 men in dark suits who identified themselves as private investigators. Arthur received them in the main living room, instructing Martha to keep the children upstairs. "Mr. Blackwood," Thorne said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "I've brought with me some colleagues who work on matters of inheritance and family rights. We've discovered some interesting information about your current domestic situation." "What information?" Arthur asked, keeping his voice firm despite his growing unease. One of the investigators, a tall, thin man named Julius Vance, opened a folder and spread documents on the table. "We have recordings of conversations that suggest this family is hiding significant assets that should be officially declared." Arthur felt his blood run cold. "What recordings?" "Conversations about secret deposits, hidden family treasures, knowledge passed down through unconventional methods," Thorne said, clearly savoring every word. "You were spying on my family?" "We were protecting the interests of a minor," Julius corrected. "The girl Lily possesses knowledge of assets that could be being improperly exploited, as she has no independent legal representation." "She does," Arthur interrupted. "I am her legal father." "Not officially yet," Thorne said, consulting his papers. "The adoption process is still ongoing, and we represent an interested party that questions your ability to act in the child's best interests." "What interested party?" The second investigator, a portly man named Damien Croft, spoke up. "Hope Carter's biological family has legal rights to any inheritance or knowledge she may have passed on to the child before she died." "That's ridiculous," Arthur said, standing up abruptly. "Lily is my biological daughter." "Prove it," Thorne challenged. "We want an official DNA test accompanied by independent experts we appoint." At that moment, Beatrice entered the room unceremoniously, having clearly overheard the conversation from the hallway. "You can leave my property immediately," she said with authority. "I'm sorry, madam, but this is no longer a private matter," Julius said. "We have evidence of tax evasion, concealment of assets, and possible exploitation of a minor. The district attorney's office will be notified." "Based on what?" Thorne smiled coldly and activated a small recorder. Eleanor's voice began to echo through the room, specifically the part where she spoke of the secret deposit and Lily's responsibilities in keeping the family secrets. The silence that followed was tense. Arthur realized the magnitude of the problem he faced. The recording had been edited to sound like a confession of asset concealment and child exploitation. "Do you want money?" he asked directly. "Is that what you're after?" "We want justice," Thorne said hypocritically, "and transparency. If this deposit exists and has significant value, part of that value legally belongs to Hope Carter's heirs." Hope had no direct heirs. She had distant cousins, Damien said, showing a printed family tree, and they hired us to ensure their rights are respected. Beatrice examined the documents with experienced eyes. This documentation is fake, she said after a few minutes. I've known the families of Havenwood for decades. Hope was an only child and never had close relatives. You're not a lawyer to make that assessment, Julius retorted. No, but I know people who are, Beatrice said, taking out her cell phone. And I also know people who can very quickly investigate the origin of these false documents. At that moment, small footsteps echoed on the stairs. Lily came down slowly, carrying Leo, despite Martha's attempts to keep her upstairs. The girl looked directly at the three men with an expression serious beyond her 4 years. Why do you want to hurt my family? She asked in a clear voice. No one wants to hurt anyone, child, Thorne said with a forced smile. We just want to make sure you're being treated properly. Grandma Hope taught me to feel when people have bad hearts, Lily said, moving closer. You have very bad hearts. You want to steal things that aren't yours. Lily, Arthur said softly, go back upstairs with Martha. No, Daddy, they came because of me, so I need to speak. Lily addressed the investigators again. Grandma Hope had no family. She always told me she was alone in the world until she found me, and the place with the special stones doesn't belong to anyone but our family. How can you be so sure? Julius asked with feigned interest. Because Grandma showed me the old papers that my mommy Eleanor's great-grandmother left. They're hidden in the safe place with the stones. Arthur closed his eyes, realizing that Lily had unwittingly confirmed the existence of the deposit. The three men's eyes gleamed with ill-concealed greed. What papers are these? Thorne asked, leaning toward Lily. The papers that prove our family has owned that land for over 100 years, Lily said simply. Grandma said one day I would need to show them to protect our home. Where exactly is this place? Damien insisted. Lily looked at the man with innocent disdain. I'm not telling people with bad hearts. Grandma Hope taught me that family secrets are only told to people who love the family. Little girl, Julius said with forced patience, we just want to help. If you show us where these papers are, we can ensure your family keeps everything that is rightfully theirs. You're lying, Lily said with absolute conviction. I can feel you're lying. And people who lie to little children are the worst of all. Thorne lost his patience. Mr. Blackwood, either you cooperate voluntarily, or we return with a court order. We have enough recordings to get search and seizure warrants. And I have enough contacts to find out who really hired you and why, Beatrice replied coldly. Get off our property before I call security. This isn't over, Thorne threatened as the three men headed for the door. After they left, Arthur knelt in front of Lily. My daughter, do you really know where these papers you mentioned are? I do. Grandma Hope took me there a few times. She said one day I would need to get them to protect our family from greedy people. Do you think today is that day? Lily thought carefully, in the serious way that had become her trademark. I think so, Daddy. Those men won't give up. They'll come back with more people and more problems. Then, Arthur said, making a decision, we'll get those papers today. Arthur, Beatrice said with concern, it could be dangerous if Thorne is really watching the property. That's why we'll go at night, Lily said, surprising the adults with her practical planning. Grandma always said that important things should be done when the moon is full, so we can see the path. Well, but our enemies can't see us. That night, as the full moon illuminated the farm's gardens, a small family expedition headed for the secret clearing where everyone's fates would be decided for the last time. They didn't know that Thorne had hired night surveillance of the property and that their journey was being watched and followed every step of the way. The final revelation was about to happen, but not in the way any of them expected. The full moon poured its silver light over the farm's fields as Arthur, Lily, and Martha walked silently toward the hidden clearing. Beatrice had stayed at the house to look after Leo, who slept peacefully in his crib, oblivious to the nighttime expedition that would determine his family's future. Lily guided the small group with the confidence of someone who knew every stone and tree on the path. Her small feet trod carefully among the exposed roots, following a trail that seemed invisible to adult eyes, but was as clear as a highway to her. "It's here," she whispered when they reached an area where ancient trees formed a natural circle. In the center, a rock formation created a small grotto, partially hidden by vegetation. Arthur looked at the spot with growing admiration. It was impossible to find this place without specific guidance, and even knowing of its existence, someone would walk right by without noticing the entrance to the grotto, camouflaged among the rocks. "Grandma Hope said this place was sacred," Lily explained, carefully pushing aside some branches that covered the entrance. "That the women of your family had kept important things here for a long time." Martha switched on the flashlight she had brought, and when the light illuminated the interior of the grotto, they all gasped. The walls were covered with natural stone shelves, where old boxes and various objects had been carefully arranged. "My goodness," Martha murmured. "It's like a secret library." Lily went directly to a specific box at the back of the grotto, as if she knew exactly where to find what she was looking for. "The important papers are here," she said, carefully opening an aged metal box. Arthur approached and illuminated the contents with his flashlight. Inside were documents that looked to be over a century old, all perfectly preserved by the grotto's protection. The first document he examined was a property deed dated 1891, recording the purchase of vast tracts of land by Eleanor's family. "This deed includes mineral rights," he said, examining the text carefully, "and there are handwritten notes about geological discoveries." "Grandma Hope told me that Mommy Eleanor's great-grandmother was very smart," Lily said, helping to organize the documents. "She studied the stones and the earth, and she discovered things that the men didn't know." Martha found a leather-bound journal, written in elegant, feminine handwriting. "Arthur, look at this. These are detailed notes on the mineral composition of the region." Arthur flipped through the pages with reverent care. The journal detailed discoveries of quartz, amethyst, and other semi-precious stone deposits, with precise maps and notes on sustainable extraction methods. "She was decades ahead of her time," he murmured. "These notes show a concern for environmental preservation and responsible mining." "There's more," Lily said, pointing to another box. "Grandma said there were papers about other families too." In the second box, they found correspondence that revealed a network of women in Havenwood who kept similar secrets about their properties and discoveries. Eleanor's great-grandmother had apparently coordinated this informal group of guardians of family heritage. "Look at this letter," Martha said, showing him a specific document. "It's addressed to Hope Carter, dated 40 years ago." Arthur read the letter aloud. "Dear Hope, I entrust to you the knowledge our family has guarded for generations. If anything happens to me, make sure my granddaughter Eleanor is prepared to carry these responsibilities." "The letter is signed by Isabel Blackwood," he continued, "Eleanor's grandmother." Lily approached, gently touching the old paper. Grandma Hope always talked about Mrs. Isabel. She said she was very wise and taught her important secrets. What kind of secrets? About how to care for the land without hurting it. About how to use the special stones to help sick people. About how to protect the family when bad people try to steal what isn't theirs. At that moment, the sound of breaking branches echoed from outside the grotto. The three of them froze, quickly turning off their flashlights. Arthur motioned for absolute silence, and they all stood motionless as they listened to cautious footsteps approaching. "I know you're in there," Victor Thorne's voice said from outside. "Come out slowly with your hands visible. Arthur whispered to Lily. "Is there another way out of this grotto?" "There is," she replied in an almost inaudible voice. "Grandma showed me, but we have to leave the papers. The papers don't matter more than your safety," Arthur said firmly. Lily shook her head with a surprising determination for a child. "The papers are important, Daddy. Without them, the bad men will be able to steal our home." "Lily, trust me," she said, with the wisdom she had inherited from Hope. "I know what to do." Before Arthur could protest, Lily shouted out of the grotto, "Mr. Thorne, I'm here. Don't hurt my daddy and Martha." "Lily, that's good," Thorne replied, clearly relieved. "Everyone come out. Slowly." "I'll come out, but first I need to put the important papers away," Lily shouted. "Grandma Hope taught me they can't be left on the ground." "You can put them away, child, but be quick." While Thorne waited outside, believing he had won, Lily did something neither Arthur nor Martha expected. Instead of putting the documents back in the boxes, she began to tuck them inside her own shirt, folding them carefully against her body. "Lily, what are you doing?" Martha whispered. "Taking the papers with me," she replied in a low voice. "Grandma Hope always said a child's body is the safest hiding place in the world because no one suspects. It's too dangerous. It's more dangerous to leave them here," Lily said with relentless logic. "If we leave without the papers, he'll take everything and our family will lose the house." Arthur realized the wisdom of his daughter's strategy, risky as it was. "Are you sure you can carry it all hidden?" "Grandma trained me for this," Lily said, adjusting the documents so they didn't create a visible bulge. "She knew that one day I would need to protect these things." When they finally emerged from the grotto, Thorne was waiting for them, accompanied by Julius and Damien, plus 2 private security guards they had hired. They all carried powerful flashlights that turned the clearing into an illuminated arena. "Very good," Thorne said with satisfaction. "Now let's examine what you found in there." "We didn't find anything special," Arthur said, trying to shield Lily. "Just some old, empty boxes." "Let me check for myself," Thorne said, heading for the grotto entrance. That's when Lily made her final move. "Mr. Thorne," she said in an innocent voice, "can I ask a question?" "You may, child." "Why do you want to steal from my family? Didn't your mother teach you that stealing is wrong?" Thorne stopped and looked at her with growing irritation. "No one is stealing anything. We are protecting historical assets." "Liar," Lily said with absolute conviction. "You want to take our special stones to get rich, but you won't." "Why won't I?" Lily smiled with the mysterious confidence she had inherited from Hope. "Because Grandma taught me that greedy people never find real treasures. Only people with good hearts can." "What nonsense," Julius said, entering the grotto with his flashlight. But when he and the others examined the interior of the grotto, they discovered that the boxes were indeed empty. There was no sign of the precious documents or anything of value. "Where are the papers?" Thorne asked, frustration evident in his voice. "What papers?" Lily replied innocently. "There were only old boxes in there." "You mentioned important papers yesterday." "I dreamed about important papers," Lily said, using all her childish ability to appear confused. "Sometimes I mix up dreams with real things." Thorne and his associates spent another hour searching the grotto and the surrounding area, but they found nothing but empty boxes and objects of no apparent value. "This is impossible," Damien muttered. "The recordings clearly mention documents and treasures." "Maybe," Lily said thoughtfully. "Mommy Eleanor was just telling a made-up story to help me sleep. Grandma Hope always said that adults sometimes tell stories that seem real but aren't." Frustrated and without concrete evidence, Thorne and his group finally gave up the search. "This isn't over," he threatened one last time before leaving with his colleagues. When they were finally alone in the clearing, Arthur knelt in front of Lily. "My daughter, you were extraordinary tonight." "I did what Grandma Hope taught me." she said simply, beginning to carefully remove the documents hidden in her shirt. "I protected our family." That night, as they organized the historical documents safely in the house, they didn't know they had just experienced the last serious threat to their family's tranquility. But the journey still held one final discovery that would transform everything they thought they knew about their history. 6 months had passed since the night in the clearing, and the Blackwood family's life had finally found the balance Eleanor had always dreamed of for her children. Victor Thorne and his associates had disappeared from Havenwood. After a Bar Association investigation revealed they were operating fraudulent schemes to appropriate family assets in several towns in the region. The July morning brought an unexpected surprise when Dr. Hughes appeared at the farm, carrying an old box and an expression of excitement that Arthur hadn't seen on the doctor in years. "Arthur," he said, breathless from running, "I found something in my old files that will change everything we know about Lily and Leo's story." The family gathered in the main living room, where Dr. Hughes carefully opened the box he had brought. "After everything that happened, I decided to completely organize my old medical records, and I found this hidden in a folder Eleanor gave me shortly before the birth." Inside the box was a personal journal of Eleanor's, different from anything they had discovered before. This record detailed not only her pregnancy, but also visions and dreams she had had about her children's future. "Eleanor had prophetic dreams," Dr. Hughes explained. "She knew things about Lily and Leo that at the time seemed like fantasy, but now they make perfect sense." Arthur opened the journal to the first page and began to read aloud. "December 15th. I dreamed again that Lily would save our family from bad men who would try to steal our heritage. In the dream, she was small but very brave, and she used her intelligence to protect important documents." "She foresaw the situation with Thorne," Beatrice murmured, impressed. "Keep reading," Dr. Hughes urged. "January 3rd, Leo appeared in my dream as a strong and protective boy, always looking after his sister, but I also saw that he would have special gifts for working with the earth and stones, as if he could feel where the best materials are." Lily, who was playing on the floor with Leo, looked up. "What are special gifts?" "They are special abilities that some people are born with," Arthur explained. "Like your ability to calm people and sense when someone has bad intentions." "Oh," she said naturally. "I always knew I was different. Grandma Hope told me." Dr. Hughes continued to flip through the journal. "There's a particularly important entry here, written the day before the birth." He read aloud. "Tomorrow my children will be born, and I know I may not be here to see them grow. But I am sure they will find their way to each other, and that together they will do extraordinary things. Lily will care for the heart of the family, and Leo will care for its prosperity and protection. And one day, when they are ready, they will discover something together that will change not only their lives, but the lives of many people in Havenwood." "What did she mean by that?" Martha asked. "I don't know," Dr. Hughes admitted, "but there are specific instructions at the end of the journal. Eleanor wrote that when Lily turned 4.5 and was reunited with her family, they should do something special." "What?" "Plant specific seeds at the site of the secret deposit, following a pattern she drew in the journal. She believed this would activate something important." Lily approached, interested. "What kind of seeds?" Dr. Hughes showed a small velvet pouch that was at the bottom of the box. "These seeds. Eleanor saved them specifically for this moment." Arthur examined the seeds, which looked ordinary but had a slightly golden hue. Did she explain why this would be important? She only wrote that the seeds, planted in the right place by her own children, would create something that would benefit the entire community of Havenwood. That afternoon, the family made a special pilgrimage to the secret clearing. Lily carried the seeds in her small hands, while Leo, now 8 months old and trying to crawl, was carried by Martha in a special carrier. "How do we know where to plant?" Arthur asked when they reached the site. Lily looked around the clearing, then walked directly to a specific spot near the entrance of the grotto. "Here," she said with absolute certainty. "I feel it's here." "How do you know?" "The same way I know other important things," she replied simply. "My heart feels warm when I'm in the right place." Following the detailed instructions from Eleanor's journal, they planted the seeds in a specific pattern that formed a perfect circle. Lily insisted that Leo also participate, guiding her brother's little hands to help cover the seeds with earth. "Now we wait," she said, sitting in the center of the circle with Leo in her lap. "Wait for what?" Beatrice asked. "For what Mommy Eleanor said would happen." Over the following weeks, the seeds sprouted with surprising speed, growing into plants that no one could identify. The leaves had a unique silver color, and the flowers that appeared were an intense blue that seemed to glow with their own light. It was Dr. Hughes who made the extraordinary discovery. "Arthur," he said one morning, arriving at the farm with a look of utter astonishment, "I need you to come with me to the university in Asheville. Immediately." "Why?" "I took samples of the plants that grew in the clearing to a botanist friend. Arthur, you've discovered a completely new species, a plant that produces extraordinary medicinal compounds." At the university, Dr. Robert Crane, an expert in medicinal botany, explained the discovery with restrained excitement. "These plants produce substances we've never seen before, compounds that show powerful anti-inflammatory properties, cell regeneration capabilities, and most importantly, natural analgesic capacities without side effects." "What does that mean?" Arthur asked. "It means you've discovered something that could revolutionize natural medicine, a medicine that could help thousands of people suffering from chronic pain." Lily, who had insisted on accompanying the family on the trip, asked a question that surprised the adults. "How many people can we help if we plant more of these flowers?" "Potentially thousands," Dr. Crane replied, "if we can cultivate it on a suitable scale." "Then that's what we have to do," she declared, with the determination that had become her hallmark. In the following months, the Blackwood family transformed part of their land into a research and cultivation center for the special medicinal plants. Arthur used some of the resources from the gem deposit to fund the project, always following the principle of using family wealth to benefit the community. Dr. Crane moved permanently to Havenwood to supervise the research, while Hope Carter was posthumously honored as a co-discoverer of the medicinal properties, as much of her traditional knowledge had contributed to the development. Lily, now 5, had developed a unique ability to identify which plants were ready for harvest, seeming to communicate with them in a way that scientists couldn't explain but had learned to respect. Leo, approaching his first birthday, showed clear signs of the gifts Eleanor had foreseen. He reacted differently to different types of soil and minerals, always calmer and happier when he was near the rich earth of the property. "You know what impresses me most?" Arthur said to Beatrice one afternoon as they watched Lily teach Leo to gently touch. "The medicinal plants. It's how everything fell into place, exactly as Eleanor said it would." "Eleanor was always special," Beatrice agreed. "But I think she also knew her children would be even more special." On Leo's first birthday, the family threw a party that brought together the entire community of Havenwood. The medicinal plant project had already begun offering free treatments to people with chronic pain in the region, fulfilling Eleanor's vision of benefiting the whole community. During the party, Lily made an announcement that moved everyone present. "I want to thank Grandma Hope, who took care of me when I was little Daddy Arthur, who brought me back home, Mommy Martha, who takes care of me every day, Grandma Beatrice, who always protects me, and especially my brother Leo, who makes my heart complete. And also, she continued with her special wisdom, I want to thank Mommy Eleanor, who even though she isn't here with her body, is always here in our hearts, and who knew that one day we would be a happy family and would help other people get well too. That night, as Lily and Leo slept peacefully in the room they now officially shared, Arthur found one last document in Eleanor's journal that he had never noticed before. It was a letter addressed specifically to him, written to be read at that exact moment. My love, the letter read, if you are reading this, it means our family has found its true purpose. Lily and Leo are together, safe, and using their gifts to do good in the world. You have become the father I always knew you would be, and our home is filled with the love and laughter I always dreamed of. I know it was difficult, and there were times when you questioned the choices that were made, but now you can see that every hardship, every separation, every tear served to forge an even stronger and more united family. Take care of our special children, guide them with love, but let them follow their own extraordinary paths. And always remember, our story doesn't end with me. It continues through Lily and Leo, and the lives they will touch over the years. With all my eternal love, Eleanor. Arthur carefully folded the letter, storing it along with all the other treasures of his family. Outside, the full moon illuminated the fields where the medicinal plants grew, promising relief for countless people who didn't even know help was on its way. In the white and blue house that had once echoed with cries of suffering, now only the laughter of happy children, the loving conversations of a united family, and the first babblings of a boy who would grow up knowing he was loved from before his first breath resonated. Lily had saved her family, Leo had completed the circle of love, and together they had transformed pain into healing, secrets into blessings, and the legacy of a departed mother into a living promise of hope for future generations. The story that began with a lone child on the streets of Havenwood had become a saga of family love that would forever change the life of an entire community, proving that sometimes the most beautiful endings are born from the most difficult beginnings. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story, giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you so much.